Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. With OpTic's undefeated start to Major 3, Dashy has reiterated that there is zero chance that iLLeY will not return to the team when he is fit and ready to do so, but also revealing that last year's Dallas Empire and Crimsix tried to poach Dashy from OpTic Chicago unsuccessfully at that. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Really up to the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that one. Firstly, just gotta say real quick, thanks for all the, happy birthday messages and the like. I'm not actually 31 as the TacticalRab Academy tried to spread this misinformation. 23 today, still kind of old man years in esports terms, but plenty of life left in the content, I'm sure. So yeah, appreciate all the support, and honestly, let's just crack on. First of all, wanted to mention this real quick, just because it wasn't long ago really that Zuma had to effectively part ways, well, didn't have to, but decided to part ways with his challenges roster, the Stallions, because there was this whole cheating debacle that went on. In fairness though, I think the clip that came out of their coach, Vinny Gage or whatever, basically saying to them, okay, like, you rotate or whatever the case may be, was actually a rather old clip still at the time. There was still talk about it, obviously, and Zoom ends up saying, okay, look, I'm not really want to get involved in this anymore, gonna step away. But apparently the Challenges brand is gonna come back for champs, like apparently Fools dragged that whole cheating debacle. He reckons maybe it wasn't as bad as it was initially considered to be. So we shall see what happens, right? Whether bringing them back means bringing back the same roster, because I guess the roster's gonna keep changing around, whether it's Kaiser and the guys or whatever, or whether it's a different team, who knows. But the Stallions brands might be back in business sooner rather than later on the Challenges fans. This also from the Minnesota Rokkr, we saw one of their watch parties right at the start of the video, at least, so kind of a still from it. And in fairness, they've been killing it so far this stage. 4-0 this split. Usually, as Brian Saint says, of course, their coach, that they're almost always 3-2 or 2-3 when they finish. The opportunity to go 5-0 or like a 4-1. I'm pretty sure they play FaZe next. That's not going to be easy, but an exciting series nonetheless. Because Minnesota Rokkr, they could beat FaZe. There's no doubt, and like that would be FaZe 2-2. Things get kind of interesting then. But again, 12-3 map count. Rokkr looking like one of the best teams this stage. They certainly haven't played any teams that are absolutely absurdly good, but still, they've played some good competition. They're getting some good results in the board. They're getting some 3-0s in, which, well, they've never really done in their history, to be perfectly honest. And they're obviously going for the 5-0s. So who knows if this is Attach's time to get his slice of the pie. And they've certainly been trending in the right direction. Their respawn looks much better, even though, in fairness, they played an awful lot of close respawn. So I think, the clutch factor is certainly going to have to continue if they want to get great results against teams like FaZe. But I'm still, right now, Minnesota Rokkr on the cusp or there and thereabouts. Top 4, top 5 teams in the game, probably. We'll have a look at some power rankings later on today. But of course, number 1 is no doubt OpTic Texas at the present time. This I thought was rather interesting, actually, that CDL Scrim Intel pointed out. Didn't really think about this, because OpTic so far this season, they've only actually lost 4 series, at least in terms of, I think, not including the kickoff and the Prime Classic, but in regular season play, they've only lost 4 series. FaZe have lost 6 by comparison, and all of those series that OpTic have lost, apart from the first couple right at the start of the year, so their first 2 league matches, they lost, right at the start, before Major 2, before this one, as you can see. But since then, they've won, obviously, every single league match throughout the rest of Major 1 and the Major itself, then into Major 2 as well. So they won all 5 kind of matches in Major 2 qualifiers. They won all the matches, or these 3 matches. So if you look at the qualifiers specifically, they've won the last 5 plus 3, and then another 3 from Major 3. So they've won 11 league matches now in a row, which is rather impressive, right? It's obviously that they fall short at Major 2, but at Major 3 might be a different story. But 11 league matches in a row, stretching back to February, is quite impressive, to be honest, for the OpTic guys. I didn't really think it was quite that long of a streak, but turns out that is pretty much the case when you look at it from this angle. But of course, at Prolute lately, they've had all sorts of teams. Of course, most of those league matches and the massive streak that they had, it's got to be said, right? We're going to talk about iLLeY, Prolute, that type of discussion. This streak, of course, from Major 1 at this, 12 win streak or whatever exactly it was done with iLLeY and the team, right? It can't be discounted what iLLeY did bring to this team, and what iLLeY's going to say, or what Dashy's going to say on iLLeY here in a second, is that if it wasn't for iLLeY, then the system that has been created around him wouldn't be able to fit Prolute in the team quite so well. So definitely, obviously, giving an awful lot of credit to iLLeY, as I'm sure they should do. But when you're 3-0 and beating FaZe in the fashion they did just a couple of days ago, the question obviously is going to be raised as to whether iLLeY should come back. Because I think, honestly, going into Major 3, even if he is kind of okay to do it, it might not be the best idea. We'll explain that here in a second. Prolute, of course, was pretty much the MVP of that series, right? At 1.3 at KD, goes absolutely on smoke. But this is how Dashy describes the situation, right? And he's saying, look, there's no way iLLeY is going to get replaced on this team. Like, if it wasn't for iLLeY, the system wouldn't fit in as it does. The issue is, from my perspective, is that, look, we don't know when iLLeY's going to be back. We know that what Scump said the last few days, that iLLeY's like the first couple of doctors he talked to, or first doctor he talked to, maybe didn't have the right idea. He's gone for MRIs, X-rays, just to make sure things are kind of not as bad as maybe they could be, or just to kind of see what the next steps are for iLLeY, to make sure his thumb is, recovering to 100% and getting ready to go. We haven't heard much about it the last few days, which implies to me he's probably not going to be ready to go this weekend. He might be, depending on the situation, but it seems relatively unlikely. And if he doesn't play all 3 weekends of qualifiers, then should they really bring him in for the Major? I think that's another discussion, even if they believe the team is better with iLLeY than it is with Prolute.
You think Prolute is outperforming iLLeY right now? What do you mean outperforming? Like, he's doing his thing, bro. What are you outperforming? Like, dude, Ender is kind of like. I saw some tweets, bro. Ender is not. Listen, I'll say right now, Ender is not getting replaced. Not getting replaced. You just not understand. The reason we're playing how we're playing is because of Ender. Like, dude, listen, I was the first one that wanted Byron on the team to fill in, you know what I mean? I knew how good this guy was. Well, especially for our situation, like, filling for Ender.
So Rambo even made some interesting points on this the other day, right? Effectively saying that, like, he believes that iLLeY has this, like, championship winning factor, right? Like, on a LAN environment, he's going to be a difference maker, as he, of course, was in the Major 1 Grand Finals when he had probably the best series of his entire career in the Grand Finals against FaZe to help them get that victory and was the MVP of that Grand Finals, no doubt. With a Prolute and kind of some of these other players that maybe don't have much experience on LAN, and Prolute probably, you know, player in that boat, might not be quite the same player in a LAN environment as what iLLeY could be in that role on the team. The issue is, to me, is that let's say they're going this week, they play 2 hard matches, New York Subliners, Los Angeles Thieves, but if they can beat FaZe, they can beat those 2. Let's say they go 5-0 from what has been a pretty difficult schedule without iLLeY and with Prolute in the team. Do you really want to swap him out for just 3 days later? Because the major, I mean, this weekend of qualifiers finishes on the Sunday, and then on the 2nd of June, that's when the major officially begins on that Thursday, right? So there's only a few days for iLLeY to come back. Like, he wouldn't have all that much time to prepare with the team, and also, like, the pressure would be on him massively. Like, you know, the pressure would be super on him, right? Because Prolute and the team, they're 5-0, like, would bring in iLLeY back, kind of mess up the chemistry a little bit. I'm not really sure. So from my perspective, if iLLeY doesn't play in this weekend of qualifiers, I don't think it's the best idea to bring him back anyway, even if they do think that, like, look, iLLEY's spot is safe, and I'm sure it is for the long term, and I'm sure they do want to bring him back when he is ready to do so. But if he's not fully ready for this weekend, then it might not be the best idea to bring him back for the major, just because I feel like it could mess things up with the chemistry. And also it puts, like, a massive weight on iLLEY's shoulders to perform, given that they'd effectively be going into the major at that point as favourites, right, as 5-0. So I think it's a really interesting dynamic, to be perfectly honest. And I do wonder what they'll do about it. Very much intrigued to your perspective in the comment section below. Of course, that Ultra event has a Challengers event alongside some details on kind of that what's going on there. $75,000 prize pool for the Challengers event. Thought was kind of cool. We're going to see Dugton, Martin, Claystahh, these type of players back in action, it seems. Now, the other side of this story yesterday from the Dashy front was actually, well, going back to last year and what could have been with the Dallas Empire roster. So, of course, last year's Dallas Empire was early on. It was effectively the 5-man team that won the Modern Warfare World Championship with Claystahh, Crimsix, Huke, iLLeY, and Shotzzy. Of course, Claystahh leaves, goes to the Subliners. It leaves the other 4, Crimsix and the 3, Zeo tree or whatever you want to call it. Now, not too long into the game, of course, the situation with Huke went down. He gets kicked from the team. They were looking for a replacement for Huke and maybe changing around some of the roles. The plan was, at the time, briefly, to try and bring Claystahh back into the team. We'll see that here in a second. That Crim reached out to Clay, wanted to get him back off New York, but at the time, like Stage 2, Stage 3, New York were on the up. They made the Grand Finals of Stage 3. If you guys might remember, they lost to Atlanta FaZe, so they weren't able to get Claystahh out. Eventually, they got Vivid into the team, and that actually worked out rather well after having Fellow in as their sub briefly. But apparently, they wanted Dashy in their team as well. I'll share this clip. Of course, look, I'm going to have to remove the music and stuff, so it might be a little bit, the audio quality might not be the best, but hopefully it gets the point across. The Crimsix brought Dashy into a call last season and said, look, do you want to join the Dallas Empire? Dashy said, damn, you've got Shotzzy on your team. This is kind of tempting, but look, I can't really leave OpTic.
Just got one for me, and I don't know. Probably somewhere with, like, Ender and Ant. I think we were going to team regardless, let's say, like, or not regardless, but, like, let's say if I got dropped, then that'd be, like, the team I'd want to go to, but obviously, like, wasn't leaving OpTic. A lot of people don't know this, but Dallas, like, wanted, I mean, I'll say this actually does not matter. Offered me a spot, like, midway through the year last year. I was kind of, like, mind blown. Like, halfway through the year, like, video, Grim drags me in the call. They're all in there. He goes, yo, you want to join? It was for Kyler at the time. I was like, I just saw Shotzzy. I was like, kinda. I'm not just joking. Nah, I can't leave. Can't leave. And then I was like, oh.
So this is quite something, really, just in light of this situation. Of course, we've talked about this a couple of times, the fact that at the end of last year, Crim did his kind of full list of best players of the season, and he put Dashy down here at number 24. Now, this isn't necessarily mutually exclusive in the sense that, of course, Crimsix realizes and understands, and even said when he was doing this list, that Dashy's individual raw talent and gun skill is absolutely superb. But, like, the way he was playing the game on OpTic Streak wasn't the right way. So he probably thought, okay, bring this guy into Dallas with Shotzzy, and, like, I can get the best out of him, right? And, of course, they did play with each other briefly. One not really too briefly, but for an entire season back in Black Ops 4 on the OpTic Gaming team as it was at the time. But Crim and Dashy, like, they seem to clash to some degree in terms of, work ethic and this type of stuff. But maybe Crim thought, okay, bringing Dashy under with Shotzi and iLLeY and Rambo as the coach over there as it was at Dallas Empire at the time, we're going to be able to get the best out of Dashy, which of course they're pretty much doing now, but without Crimsix on the OpTic Texas team. So thought this is rather interesting actually, that Dashy was obviously, he was going to turn down this situation. But yeah, kind of incredible that Crim was like, look, Dashy, we wanted you to join our team. And who knows what that had done in terms of roles. I guess that had been iLLeY and Shotzi on kind of the full-time SMGs, which really wasn't the play seemingly in the short term. They did try it briefly, I think, with iLLeY on the sub, and eventually they went back to him kind of on the flex role. Vivid came in and they had some pretty good success for the end of the year. But I thought it was rather remarkable that, yeah, Dashy and Crimsix could have been a duo after kind of the drama and the beef that they've had back in the day. Crim was kind of keen to get this guy back. It just goes to show, like, well, the respect that Crim had for his talent, but also thinking that, look, we can get the best out of Dashy here with the right environment, which is pretty much what they've managed to do so far this year. This, of course, if you guys missed this came out last season pretty much around a similar time, that they tried to get Clay during this period, right, when the whole Huke situation was going down, all the drama about that. They needed a fourth player. Fellow subbed in briefly for their team, but they tried to get Clay off the subliners to kind of bring that duo back together. That, of course, didn't work out right. And Dashy apparently was what they were trying to, well, make happen as another option. So interesting situation. I thought it was kind of funny, really, how it ends up that they have a very similar team dynamic now, but on Dashy's home, I guess, still on OpTic, right? So instead of Dashy having to leave to get hold of Shotzi and iLLeY and Rambo, the coaching staff, they just come to him after the merger goes down. And Crimsix is the one. He finds himself between a rock and a hard place, effectively, in the whole situation, but still has managed to win an event this year with the subliners. But the whole classic situation obviously didn't work out. So quite an interesting turn of events. Definitely tweet your perspective on it in the comment section below. But yeah, what do you think OpTic are going to do going into this event, right? Because we heard initially that iLLeY was going to be out for 1 to 2 weeks. It's obviously been longer than that, right? As we kind of theorized and talked about earlier on, that like these kind of injuries might not go away so easily. And well, it seems like that's not necessarily going to be the case. iLLeY believes, or Dashy believes, that like iLLeY is 100% going to return, which I think is the right idea. We know what iLLeY's done for this team. We know the respect, and like Scump's called iLLeY one of his best teammates ever. We know that he gets on incredibly well with Shotzi and Dashy and has great history with them. And of course, iLLeY is a world champion. You're not just going to get rid of him from your team, but there is also an argument that says the way Prolute is playing, that he actually might be a better fit in certain situations. But I feel like bringing iLLeY back in solely for the major might not be the greatest idea either. But very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit on the like button. Tell us your YouTube gods, this is a good video. I'd also like you to see it as well, and I'll grow the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.